as his family got older, they migrated back to where the family had come from in the Midwest. And that's where he is now. Still living, still kicking.
That's good.
Yeah, he thinks so. Yeah.
After high school, what did you decide to do?
After high school, I decided that my career was going to be, I don't know, I had no idea. And one day, before I fully experienced doing nothing, my mother drives me down to the Towson State Teachers College, hauls me in to the registrar and says, he wants to register for the Teachers College. I'll never forget that. So I did. It didn't make any difference to me. I had no goal whatsoever. I was young. I still wanted to play. You know, let's get together and build a dam and a stream. I'd do that. But I had to get serious about something. So I did that for 2 years. I kind of goofed off from the classes because the classes were the same as everybody else had to take. And then I started taking teachers' classes to learn how to be a teacher, and I really loved that. I just fell in love with it. I had more fun doing that. But love the kids, elementary school age kids. They were so much fun. So much fun. So bright and naive.
So it wasn't that you decided to become a teacher, it was that your mother decided for you?
Well, she put me down there. I didn't have to stay, but I did stay because I just enjoyed it. I had, I did, I don't know how many months, 3.5, 4 months in Lockley Tall School. And that was a major experience because that was the teaching platform for a lot of folks. Where to go from there? I think from there I went to Loch Raven Elementary and did student teaching as a member of the New Oakley Elementary School, which had no school. So I was still at Loch Raven Elementary in a faculty room on the second floor. I was there for 4 months, and Uncle Sam said, I have another job for you. So he lassoed me and put me in the Army for a while. I came back, I went back to, I came in to Berkshire Elementary in the East Side. Don Schwannebeck, great faculty. We really had a respect for them. They worked hard, and you better be working hard or you disappeared. You didn't stay. And you had to love kids. And I thought that was great. And great models. Great models. Even though up here in the central area, we kind of snub our nose occasionally at people who are down the east side, but great people. You know, I was principal at Colgate Elementary for a year before coming up to Stoney Elementary, and that was a great year. Found out I had relatives in the community. I don't think it went over too well because they didn't like the answers I gave them.
They didn't like the answers you gave them?
Well, they did stupid questions, and I give them the right answers, and that wasn't what they wanted. It's almost like they wanted me to agree with them because we were cousins, and no, that's not how it works.
So where
You can ask Jim Long about that. I mean, he asked for my support and things. I said, you gotta be kidding, I don't believe in that.
Each to his own, each to his own. Where did you serve in the armed forces? The Army, Navy, Marines?
United States Army. I started down in South Carolina. I went from South Carolina to, yeah, I did that. Where'd I go? Went to an Army base in the Midwest. Artillery base, which I should know. I did
Were you ever in Oklahoma or Texas or
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yeah. I got there one Saturday in a sandstorm. Fortunately, we'd had inspection that morning because everything was covered with sand. I mean, the windows were closed, doors closed, sealed the best we could. The sand rolled in like everything was just open.
What did you do in the Army?
I did everything the best I could to stay below the sight line of the officers.
That was smart.
I did something like 3 or 4 weeks of 8-week sections of training, and ended up in supply, which is pretty good. It was a lot of fun.
Usually you don't get hurt doing supply.
Usually you don't have to be, no.
Did you go back to teaching as soon as you came out of the Army?
The next morning,
The next morning?
I left the base down in Virginia around 5 o'clock. Came home, tried to adjust to being home, which I didn't for weeks. And the next morning, I was, I was down in Berkshire Elementary School, standing around waiting for the principal to come in. And I was on the major days, for days.
I'm sure.
But I didn't make the switch. It was really hard for me to make that switch. That.
So how did you transition from being a teacher to elementary school administration?
Well, a lot of it had to do with the graduate courses I was taking. And a lot of it had to do with the assignments that my principals would give to me. And I was promoted to vice principal at a school that never had a vice principal before, and where my good friend who was the principal had no idea what to do with me. So I spent a year and a half, I'm walking around school, standing in the storeroom. Hi teachers, hi kids, you know. And the supervisors in those days had a lot more to say about how things ran than they do today, as I understand it. So my friend the supervisor says, Joe, who's the principal, when's the last time Bud was in a classroom to observe a teacher? Joe says, why would he want to do that? She says, you get him in the classroom and teach him how to observe the teacher in the classroom teaching, because he's not going to be here next year. Oh. So it was shortly before I became a principal that I went to the classroom and learned how to start learning how to observe fairly a teacher. It was good. Joe did a nice job.
Where did you go to graduate school?
University of Maryland. Well, I did some at Loyola College. I did my master's at Loyola College, and after that, I came out of the service, I went to College Park. And I forget exactly, I guess I went to College Park because the courses I wanted to take were being taught at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, downtown, and I just stuck with it, went on down to College Park. So the summer courses were in College Park, and the winter courses mostly were in Baltimore until I got near the end. Then they were all down College Park.
You got your doctorate. How did you pick your thesis topic?
Oh, that was arduous. That was tough.
How so?
Because my advisor said, Bud, so-and-so and I are working on this project. We'd like you to do this for us. Love to, sure. So I did a project for them that included, as I recall, 70, I think it's about 74 teachers in Baltimore County. And tell you the truth, I don't recall exactly what we did, but whatever we did, it was used in the project that they were working on. And a guy who just gotten his doctorate ahead of me did not approve of my topic, and he refused to be on my committee. And he told my chair that that was one of the stupidest, went on and on. What he didn't know was that it was the chair who gave me the topic. And he was going to be on that committee for college, that group. I don't know if he made it or not, they made a shot.
Well, his political astuteness had some polishing to be done.
Yeah, probably. Oh, man.
How did you enjoy being a principal?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, you went on to become a principal.
Yeah.
Were you just in the north central part of this county to be a principal, or were you a principal all over the county?
Mostly it was in the central area, but I was at Colgate Elementary in the southeast section, and I did enjoy that. It was great, and I discovered that I had relatives living in that community, and that community is small. It has no growth opportunities as of today, because they've got railroads, tons of them running this way. The clover leaf is out here, and the steel mill's down there, and you're kind of stuck.
It's kind of framed in.
Yeah, but I was really surprised. The guy says, "You know, I'm your cousin." I said, "How's that?" He went through all this stuff, and I said, "Okay, fine."
Did you ever act as an administrator over on the west end of the county?
I was assistant principal at school over there.
Featherbed Lane?
Featherbed Lane. Yeah.
Do you think there is a big difference between the communities in the east end of the county and the communities in the west end of the county?
I suspect that there is, because most people in the county tended to look down at people that worked in factories. Yeah.
We are set to begin? Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Today is Tuesday, July 19th, 2016. It is approximately 20 after 12 in the afternoon. We are in the Galloway House at the Alms House, Galloway Room at the Alms House, headquarters of the Historical Society of Baltimore County. Today we are interviewing Bud Cornell. My name is Sally Riley. I'm a volunteer here at the Historical Society. Our witness today is James Long. Good afternoon, Bud.
Good afternoon.
What is your full name?
Evart, France, Frantz, Cornell.
And where were you born?
Probably momentarily in Baltimore City, but mostly everything else is in Lutherville.
Your parents were living in Lutherville when you were born?
Yeah.
When were you born?
1932, January the 30th.
What is your mother's full name?
Marie Agnes France Cornell.
And your father's full name?
Evart Abbott Cornell.
When and where was your mother born?
As I understand it, she was born in Lutherville.
And your father?
Born in Hamden, Baltimore City.
So both of them are natives of the Baltimore area.
Yes.
And your mother's family goes back a fair distance in Baltimore County?
Yeah, grandfather Franz came out of that gang up in Cockeysville. And I don't tell you the truth, I don't know how far back they go, but they go a ways.
Where was the house that your parents lived in when you were born?
That was 1612 Riderwood Lutherville Drive in Lutherville, Maryland, 210903.
And how did they come by that house?
They came by that house because my grandfather Franz apparently had $10,000, and he said, if you will take care of me and let me live with you the rest of my life, I'll build a house for you. So they said, okay. So he built the house. He took the plans out of some book that was very popular at that time. That is, well, we left it at the house for the next people that live there. And you'll see a lot of houses like it. You look around. He doubled the size of everything, which made it very nice, very nice. And you can tell that today by looking at the several houses that have been built beside it. They're about half size. Yeah. Did a nice job. We were most fortunate.
Well, the ground around there is kind of rocky. Did he dig the ground out himself?
No. He had a gentleman from the African American neighborhood come in with these horses and dynamite and blow the thing apart.
You've shown me the house. What was it like to live in there when you were a child?
Well, you have to understand that there was a stream in back of the house, and it kind of got organized just on the other side of the railroad tracks and came down under the tracks, became Roll and Run, and went on down to Lake Rowan. And that's where we spent hours and hours and hours, because they kept building these dams, and Mother Nature kept washing them out, and we rebuilt them. So.
Who's the we?
Well, Charlie Jost was one of them. He lived across the street above the store with his parents. Billy Seeds was around a lot. There are a bunch of guys I haven't thought of in years and don't recall. Peter Parker was one of them. Peter went to scout camp, which is something at that time. He was the only one whose family had the money to send him to scout camp. So he went to scout camp, came back, and he was an Eagle Scout. I think he was the first Eagle Scout that we had. It was pretty neat.
These were all children that lived in the Lutherville community with you?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
Had a sister. I understand my mother, we had a brother in between us, but apparently he died at childbirth.
Was your sister older or younger than you were?
Oh, she was much older, about 2 years, 2.5 years older than.
Overall, what was Lutherville like when you were growing up as a child?
For me, Lutherville was a great place to grow up. They had a Boy Scout troop. They had a lot of activities at church. I went to St. Paul's Lutheran at that time, and the college grounds were managed by Colonel Galston, and Colonel Galston had a granddaughter who was my age and in my class at school. And we probably embarrassed her a lot because her grandfather was always chasing us off college property. But they had some really neat fields there, and they were good for football and soccer, and we appreciated the maintenance that they put in them, and we played on them. And then and then Mr. Gelston would come charging down the hill from Seminary Avenue on his horse, and we would go through the hedge and disappear out into space. Nice.
Did you ever try to play in any of the college buildings?
We did a lot of basketball in a wooden structure, about 2 stories, but there was no second floor in it. They used it as a theater, and it did have basketball nets inside, and we go through the windows and play basketball until somebody who wasn't a member of our crew showed up and we disappeared. We went all directions, but mostly off the property. We tried to find the shortest distance to get off the property. I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
You said you lived across from the railroad tracks. What was the area around the railroad like? Did you know who lived in the railroad station or who took care of the railroad station?
We pretty much knew everybody. It wasn't that large. Country Club Park was Morris Avenue, a little bit, maybe a block or 2 blocks of Green Spring, up 100 feet or so of Towson, and it only went back maybe 2 houses when it got to Towson Avenue. So it was relatively pretty small. Most of the roads were not in. I think the contractor was a little ticked because somehow grandfather France got permission to build the house where he did near the railroad station, which was greatly appreciated by his son-in-law later, because my father would ride the train to work, and there it was. And all he had to do was trot down there and jump on. He didn't have to run from Towson Avenue 2 long blocks and try to make it. But so be it.
Where did you go to elementary school?
One of the old Lutherville elementary schools. This one is the 2-story square building is across from the fire department. That was the school I went to. My sister went to that school. My mother went to an earlier one that was on Bologna Avenue, the second house in from Seminary Avenue on Bologna. I think last I heard, it belonged to a member of the Bowie family.
Mm.
John Schock grew up and lived in the one next to it. He was a high-ranking something in the Board of Education. I forget what John was. Highly respected, low-key. He could nail you and you wouldn't realize it until he'd gone, because you were bleeding out. He was good.
What was the elementary school like?
As a student or a teacher?
As a student.
As a student?
As a student.
We had recess.
Did you have, how many classrooms were in the school?
When I was at Lutherville Elementary, we had 2 classrooms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th, and high school, or in the high school, which was the one on Central Avenue at the time.
So you had 3 classes in one room?
Yeah.
And 1 teacher?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, in those days, nothing to it. These days, a little different.
You said that you all played soccer and football on the fields of the female college. What other games did you all play when you were little?
Well, there were some of us who had gotten into lacrosse, and we generally stayed down at the bottom of the front lawn. It's on Front Avenue. Stay away from Mr. Gelston as far as we could, and we would play in there. Mostly we just whipped the ball around. There weren't enough of us to really have a game, so not in those days.
Did you join any special groups when you were younger?
Boy Scouts,
Boy Scouts?
that's what we had.
How long were you in Boy Scouts?
A long time. I think I hit 50 years because I started out the usual way with the Lutherville troop. And as a matter of fact, I started going to Boy Scout meetings because my father was working with them. I think I was 10 years old. And they met in the real estate shack, if you will, which was an old trailer that they put up on I don't know, some kind of pillars. It was about this far off the ground, as I recall. That was on the corner of Rodwood Drive and Morris Avenue. Yeah, on the west side. And that was just sitting there, so they let the Boy Scouts go in there. So the Boy Scouts were in there until Mr. and Mrs. Weisbrod gave them some property on Frankie and Ridgely, I think it was. And on the corner we built our scout shack.
You all built it?
We built it. We had the manpower, we had the knowledge. Because there were men on the council who knew how to do it, and we did it.
Very good.
It was neat. Chased the snakes, chased the skunks. We had a problem with the skunks.
You had skunks?
Well, yeah, they had the dead skunk on the side, and I wanted the tail. So I cut the tail off. And nobody had come around me.
I wonder why. Did you learn any little ditties while you were in Boy Scouts?
Ditties?
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
Like Little Willie?
Little Willie. Actually, I learned Little Willie years later. There were a lot of Boy Scout songs, and we'd sing a couple of them at every meeting, and a lot of them at scout camp, and you know what, right now, I do not recall.
Okay. So you finished elementary school and you went off to high school. Where did you go to high school?
One of the old Towson high schools, the one that's on Central Avenue.
The one that's the Bicota house now?
Bicota, yeah.
And how did you get from Lutherville to Towson High School?
7th grade, mostly, I rode the bus. High school, mostly, I hitchhiked or walked. A lot of times I'd walk, I forget what we call it. It was the old railroad road that went from, I think I went to Timonium or Cockeysville, I guess. Went from Cockeysville to Towson.
There was a railroad that went from Cockeysville to Towson?
Yeah. Matter of fact, if you start at the Catholic Church and go down
In Towson?
in Towson, and you walk down the road towards the courthouse, occasionally you can see a rail sticking up.
Really?
Yeah, they just cover them up.
Well, now, where did the railroad cut through Lutherville?
Beside the fire department, where it is today, down Division,
How big?
yeah.
You'd never know there was a railroad through there now. Did
That's
you?
because you're not old enough.
You're right. Did you play any sports in high school?
Lacrosse, yeah. Played lacrosse, and I was manager or something for my chemistry teacher did basketball. I did for basketball. As long as I was basketball season was there, I was in good shape in chemistry because the manager was the chem teacher. But everything fell apart when the season was over and reality struck again. I didn't have spit about chemistry.
Who was your coach in lacrosse?
Jim Leslie. There was another young man who came in and worked with him because mostly Jim was actually the coach of Catonsville High School, even though he lived in Towson. That's where he was teaching, so he was the coach over there. And 7 o'clock in the morning, he would have workout with us. But when when game time came, he wasn't around. He was over there with those kids from Catonsville. And we were kind of floating, although there was a young man that would be there for games. He said, well, what did he know about what you could do? Not much.
So you all just relied on your lessons from Mr. Leslie.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you ever see any of your high school classmates anymore?
I'm going to say yes because I do. I see Jonna Suter here. She's the one I see most. Sometimes when I go down the Eastern Shore, I see Lee Thomas, who lived down in Stoneleigh. He was an attackman. He was really good. Man, you could see that stick straight up going past the goal. You hit that stick, you had to know he had a goal. He was really good. He and Gordon Pereira. What happened to Gordon? Gordon died. He was a doctor, a medical doctor. Who else was up there? Jim Kenty. I don't know what happened to Kent. He died too.